When we're looking at arrows, there are different materials that the arrows are made of. Some are wood, some are fiberglass, some are aluminum, and the pricing is going to vary depending on which arrows you get. You want to match the arrow to the bow. So when you prepare to buy a bow, the very best thing I can tell you is to go into a local archery shop and ask them to help you. The very important thing is this arrow, it must match the bow, and so they have flex to them. And if your arrow perfectly matches your bow, it has this flex. This flex will match how much weight is being pulled behind the arrow. And so as it's flying, it's flexing, and that flex is going to fly and hit the target. The archer's paradox will cause that to fly in a great pattern so it hits the same spot every time. If the arrow does not match the bow, you might see an arrow that's flying kind of floppy, maybe like when you throw a football and it kind of tumbles. That's what the arrow wants to do. So you definitely want to get arrows to match the bow. This becomes more and more important the more weight you're pulling and the more velocity and energy you're putting behind the arrow. The parts of the arrow I will show you. You have the tip. I talked to you about a quiver and a hood to protect the tip. What we're going to be shooting are called field tips, and it's just a pointy tip that will stick into the target. There are also the broadheads, which I showed you. We've got these sharp knife-like broadheads. Additionally, we've got some small game type broadheads. So you'll look at these here, and we've got different blunts and baskets that you can use for hunting squirrels or birds and different smaller animals. These shafts, as I mentioned, they come in different stiffness, different materials, and so forth. At the back end of the arrow, you have what are called vanes or fletchings. And way back when, these were originally bird feathers, and they would find the different bird feathers to help the arrow spin as it flies. And you can research or contact me with further questions, but some of these vanes and fletchings are put on in a slanted manner so they can increase the spin. Some are straight. So if you do buy arrows and you feel like they look like they're on there crooked, it could be intentional. And when you look at the different sizes of these, you will see a difference. Some are large, some are small, some are feathers. People use large feathered arrows to hunt birds because the big feathers cause resistance when the arrow is flying. So your arrow will fly up and then fly down instead of going very far away. At the back end of our arrows, there is this little plastic piece that has a groove in it or a notch. It is called a nock. And the nock hooks onto the bowstring, and that's what holds that onto the string while you're preparing to shoot. All of these things, the bows and the arrows, you need to inspect often for damage. If you shoot and you miss your target or you hear a loud sound when you're hitting your target, you need to inspect and make sure there are no cracks or splits in your arrows because you can get hurt if you shoot a damaged arrow. These tips, they can loosen, and sometimes you can hear them rattling when they loosen. So after you pull them from your target, and I'm going to teach you how to pull them from a target, you want to make sure that those tips are tight. These are basic pieces of equipment that you may want to start off with before you really invest a lot of money. You will need a bow, arrows, and a target. Some other things that you may need are an arm guard. So an arm guard attaches to your forearm and it protects your arm from potentially getting hit by the string. If you have proper form while you're shooting, you will not hit your arm ever. So we will discuss in a future segment your proper form so that you do not get hurt. Remember, I told you this is a very safe sport. So we don't want anybody getting hurt. So you may want an arm guard. There are also accessories that are called finger tabs, and a finger tab attaches to your fingers. It will help you prevent from getting blisters, and some people like to use finger guards when they're shooting and some people don't. So that is a personal preference. By all means, when you're just starting, you do not have to have that. In our next segment, I'm going to be talking about how you can find a bow to use for this course and for future. So I look forward to chatting with you then.